The RIOT interviews.
It is the RIOT.
Yay, Andrew time.
I'm excited about this. We actually get to see Andrew from Project 86. If you are not right now, you should stop by RadioU's Facebook page.
Hop
or
on there.
Later, it's going to be archived on our YouTube channel, but we're actually getting a chance to talk to and see Andrew from Project 86.
Good morning. How are you doing? Yes.
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. It's good to see you because, yes, we normally have a chance to talk on the phone, but we don't have a chance to see each other. So we're glad to be able to see you today, too.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Dude, you look...
Technology, man.
I know, right?
You look good, Andrew.
You do look good. How are you doing?
Oh, you guys look good.
Oh,
It's true.
yay.
It's true. We look pretty good. So, Andrew, what's new, man? What have you been up to?
Oh my gosh, lots going on right now. Obviously Project 86 has been putting out music for a really long time, and it's been 21 years since I started the band, and I've been able to put out a ton of records and also do a lot of other creative, fun things along the way. I've been a full-time artist my entire adult life, and I just launched a Patreon for a new podcast I'm starting. And I'm really excited that you guys had me on today so I can talk about it. It ties into Project 86 and a lot of other things that I think hopefully will inspire a lot of people.
So for your podcast, are you talking it's just project stuff, or is it, since you do a lot more with all the artistic side that you do as well, is the podcast going to just kind of cover everything that you do?
So that's a great question. Initially, when I wanted to launch a podcast, it was because I felt left out.
You wanted a podcast too?
The rest of the world.
Yeah.
I want one too. I felt like I was on the outside of a club. Now, I started this idea probably 3 or 4 years ago, and the original impetus was just to give back from all the things that I've learned and been able to experience, and all the stories I've accumulated, and all the creative endeavors I've basically, embarked upon. It's obviously motivated by Project 86, but the name of the podcast is Pioneers Podcast, Finding Your Creative Voice. And so it's an attempt to try to take all the things I've done in Project 86, share insights into songwriting, share stories behind songs, stories from the road, stories from the studio, include a lot of special guests, and really inspire others to find their creative voices within all of that.
See, Andrew, the thing, I think it sounds great, which is why I have a real problem with the podcast.
He doesn't like things that are great now.
I'm a little concerned that if your podcast is really good, then our podcast is going to be overshadowed in some way.
You're going to take down our podcast. That's a concern. That is a legitimate concern, even though I feel like there's room for both of our podcasts, and ours has nothing to do with this topic.
It is true that there's room for both of our podcasts, but the thing is like, as his podcast grows, it's going to push ours
true.
out.
It's a worry. Well, we're happy to have you in the podcast world, though. We're glad.
Just a little concerned about it. So, man, how's the Patreon going?
I just launched it. We've got a few patrons already. If you visit patreon.com and just type in my name, Andrew Schwab, at the top, you'll see the Pioneers podcast, or type in Pioneers. We just launched it. This is a brand new thing for me. So I set a goal of 250 subscribers. I figure we have, 75,000 on Facebook, many thousands on email, over 100,000 people who follow us. Maybe there's 250 folks out there who want to get behind this.
Join too?
Yeah, sure.
So then to get the podcast, they do have to join as a patron, or is the podcast just out there and that's an added, bonus that people can join with you with?
Basically, the Patreon is to get the thing off the ground. It's I set a goal as an initial funding goal, essentially, to kind of cover the time investment, paying other folks to edit, and make it possible for me to produce the thing, because it takes a while, it takes manpower, etc. So, but yeah, the Patreon is basically, once I get to 250 subscribers, the podcast will go into production, and then once it is actually live
Gotcha.
and I have episode release, then it will be also available to everybody for free.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's cool. So it's kind of like a delayed kind of thing, but we've seen
You got to get it funded first. We know how that goes. We understand that.
We do. So, you know what? This is just kind of like a side note, something I'm interested in. Have you started like figuring out like how are you going to record it? Are you going to do it at home? Do you have a place?
This is Andrew, by the way, with Project 86.
Do you have a place where you're going to go and like, hey, this is the Andrew studio? Like, do you know how you're going to do it yet?
Yeah, I'll be doing it from home. I also have a partner in crime that's going to help me who lives in San Diego who will hop on the show every now and then. And then when I have guests come on, I have a bunch of guests lined up already. I have Ryan Clark from Demon Hunter, Leroy from War of Ages, Bruce from Living Sacrifice, Tobin from Flatfoot 56, and continuing to compile a list of friends and fellow creative cohorts to come on the show. And they'll obviously call in remotely and we'll record that way.
Dude, that sounds fantastic. And you've got plenty of
the lineup.
Yeah, and you've got plenty of contacts. Like you should be able to really have some interesting guests that have got some great insight on that show.
Yeah, I have a long list of people I'd love to have on. Like I said, I've reached out to a bunch of them. And I have a couple of seasons already storyboarded out. I mean, the idea here is that I want to combine, Project 86 stories that maybe people have never heard before. I have a ton of them. And maybe take an entire podcast to just go into what it's like to write a song, and really, really share the whole process. Or take another episode where I have maybe a really influential author or graphic designer come on and talk about how they got started with their career. The whole idea is empowering other people to pursue their creative dreams, even if you're not a full-time creator. This will be really an argument will be made by me throughout the entire length of this podcast that there's a creative person in each one of us. And maybe I can inspire you to pursue something new or to get better at your current craft or just to develop more as an artist.
So we're talking to Andrew from Project 86 about his podcast that he's in the process of launching. Now, Andrew, if we wanted to give to your Patreon, probably find it at your website. And then
look up Andrew Schwab.
Look it up on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all over Twitter, all over Facebook, all of the social media associated with the band or me is going to have links to this thing, or you just go to patreon.com, type in my name or Pioneers Podcast, and you'll be able to find it. Again, looking for 250 folks who are willing to get this thing off the ground. So everybody who becomes a patron, the initial sort of thank you is I'm going to make a phone call to all 250 of those people. I haven't really added up the hours that's going to take. Maybe that was a misstep.
Well, you can spread it over many days. It could take some time.
Yeah, it might take at least 250.4 minutes to do
to get
all
to you guys.
Just as a gesture to say, I'm serious about this thing, and it's definitely a new way to connect with me. On some of the tiers of the Patreon, people get to curate content. They get, I'm making extra episodes and content available depending upon how high you go on the tiers.
You want to go
at
with
the highest level. I'm actually doing a second podcast for just those people.
Andrew just doesn't just do a podcast.
He's thought this through, guys.
He thinks it through, and that's why people would be interested in, I think, hearing from you about creative stuff because you really go that extra level. And I think that's, again, what fans appreciate so much when it comes to not just Project 86 fans, but if they're fans of your artwork and stuff too. Like, I think that would be a great podcast to jump into.
So Andrew from Project 86, you can find more of his stuff on Patreon or through their social media outlets.
So we can get it going.
All right. So Andrew, thank you for taking time to be on the show this morning.
Thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome. Hang tight.
Here is Project 86. It is the Riot.
Want to hear more? Check out riot.radiou.com.